Hello and welcome to the Dance of the Soul. So you're catching Regan and I on both. Uh, we're both on, kind of in a moment of travel here, and wanted you to know that you are so loved. So if there's a little crazy right now, Regan is actually in his travel van that he's talked about buying and inner workings. And so he's struggling a little bit with being in a small town. You know how Wi-Fi and mobile data and all that kind of stuff is kind of crazy. So with that we were today going to talk about, I'm Natasha Venter, uh, a psychic medium who really enjoys helping people get through life. I really enjoy doing the dance between dimensions and bridges of life to get people to this human world of ours to where we know how we can manage getting somewhere. And I've been called the bridge between worlds. I guess that's what I am because that's what other people label me. So with that this is the Dance of the Soul, and Regan Forsten is coming on. Like I said, he is in his van traveling. He's actually sitting in a parking lot of a golf course. Imagine that. Sounds like he is like my husband, loves golf. So with that he's trying to find a way to get better coverage because it was pretty laggy. So we want to do that. But today, Regan Forsten, who is a hypnotherapist with the Newton Institute, Regan isn't just uh, a hypnotherapist. He is one who's struggled with anger, with relationships, with he's been an actor, he's been actually a clown, and that kind of thing. So with that I thought that this is a conversation that we can really talk, because right now it's coming out what we need to do. And it really called to me because I'm traveling here in California again, and the friend that I visit, and we've really been talking about the um, Don Miguel's, and I can never say his name, the four agreements. And one of the agreements is be impeccable with your words, right? Well, impeccable with the words, and I'm using his language, okay, because I don't want to get into a copyright here. I want to name that it's his language that I am talking about right now. The impeccable with the words is something that we all struggle with. And if you know what he is, and I know that my girlfriend right now is listening to it on audio, and this is a book that you can read over and over and over again, and each time you get something out of it. I even do the same thing, right? So with that as I'm going forward and managing, I'm noticing as she's listening, because it's an audio book too, and actually I might even download the audio, because there is something about listening to what the author intended to be said, because of how the lilt of the sentences and that kind of thing is different than how we read it, right? So being impeccable with our words. And here's Regan again. We're going to try this again. Hello again.
All right. Now
Hi.
I get 5 bars now, so it should be good.
Oh, much better, because I don't have to worry about talking over you.
Yeah, I'm about a mile away from the golf course, so
Good job. Good job. You're doing great. Thank you. And you're clearer and everything. So
good.
I was just talking about how I was leading into, talking about you and how you've had some different dances in life, and who you are. And I was talking about how I was, and then I was starting to talk about Don Miguel Ruiz. I cannot say his name correctly, and from the Four Agreements, and about talking about our words, with integrity. And it's one of those things that right now in our world that we're really struggling about. How do we be impeccable with our words? How do we manage being who we want to be? And I know that, I was down here in California, my girlfriend, I was just saying that my girlfriend has come back around to listen to the story by audio. And, it was interesting listening to it by audio than reading it, because I've read it a couple times, but it was different to have the lilt of the
Yeah.
sentences differently. And how, It's like the paragraph would be read, but it put an influx on, like, the part that I was reading, it was about how to be impeccable with our words. And I'm using his language, I say, because I don't want copyright here. That,
Yeah.
it was interesting how he even named, and it's been a couple years since I read it, even saying that, we want to love our mate. Yet at the same time, many of us want to love our mates into being who we want them to be instead of honoring who they are. And that's the backside of being impeccable with our words, because of the fact that, oh, I love you, yet you're doing that wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, being a therapist, that's a common problem with my clients that they have, is they're always just trying to get the other person to look at the world and to see things exactly as they do, and it frustrates them when that can't happen. You
Mm.
know, for instance, a client just a couple of days ago, she's just been married to someone for 40 years and never really been happy, and she's a real neatnik and he's kind of a slob, a bit, and they just have never worked that out. And so it's just a constant frustration because, she just hasn't realized that that's just not him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I don't know. It's really really tough. Um, and I think when we feel best is when we have people that have promised us something and they come through. When the other people are impeccable in their word, and how wonderful that is, that you can trust that person, that when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it. And whoa, it just feels so good when we have friends that are that type of people, and that's the type of people that we need to be in return. you know
Exactly, exactly. I know that so many people right now, and I include myself a little bit because this is an observation, not a judgment, that we talk about people, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And usually what we're talking about is what we're doing ourselves. And it's like, oh, I need to, it's that looking at our own mirror before we have the I want to call it judgment or communication towards
yeah.
someone. And many a times, talking with people, I try to get permission before I say something like, hey, do you mind relabeling that or re-speaking that? Because so many people will say, you know I just don't, I'm just so tired all the time. And I go, do you mind if we rephrase that? you know
Yeah.
to I'm tired. I'm tired right now. And I'll get energy later, but I'm tired right now. you know
Yeah.
or something like that, so that we can be more impeccable with our words, because first we got to start with ourselves. How can we be impeccable with our words to
Yeah.
ourselves?
It's like, how can you expect others to be impeccable if we're not impeccable? That's
Exactly.
it. But we're hypocrites a lot of times because we expect that in others, and then we find ourselves not doing that. I think it helps to be more mindful of the things that you say, even. So when you promise somebody something, don't just say it flippantly or whatever, because a lot of people do that. They like, hey, we'll have lunch next week, or and some people take that like, oh, good, we're gonna have lunch next week, and then the person never calls, and you wonder what's
Hmm.
going on. They said we were gonna, do that. So we have to be very, very careful in the words that we use, and to be mindful of the promises that we're making, and then to do something to remind ourselves that we made that promise and we need to fulfill it.
Exactly. And yet, on the other side of that coin, what we can do if somebody says that is to say, oh, you want to get together next week? Do you want to put it on the calendar right now?
Yes. Yes.
And it's not necessarily wrong to do that or to push, but it's that next, because I know from me, a lot of times that I've learned that I have to communicate that next step. It's not up to the other person to always communicate. Like sometimes we want to say, hey, give me a call. Well, why don't I call you?
Yeah.
It's that stepping up and being who we want to be what we want to receive. And that's the thing about dancing in this world of ours, that, like on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about opportunity, because opportunity brings us into so many things. And this whole being impeccable with our words. I love that Don Miguel Ruiz, is that how you
Don Miguel Ruiz, yeah.
Yeah, that he brought up this story all those years ago. Because right now, I was listening to my astrologer, Janet Hickox from living-astrology.com, that she was talking about right now, this whole week is about shaking us up to get rid of our shadows in our old stories, our old shadows of self-doubt and self-hittings and all those things, to wake us up so that we can be better with who we are. Because the fact that right now it's magnified, what we say, what we think is what we're going to receive. And thankfully, we don't receive it all at the same time, right away. But there's that point. And so if we keep talking about, oh, I'm always lonely, I'm never going to get a relationship, and all that, well, that ends up being the story.
Yeah. I think the most disappointing thing sometimes is when, people say things to us and we get to, uh, expecting that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and then they don't, and then they do that over and over and over again, and then we get into, if that's a friend or something, we get into a topic we've had on shows before about setting boundaries. You know, uh, I know Patty. She just chimed in my thing here saying she's watching us today. She just got home from Monterey with having 3 days with her niece, which was wonderful to see them. They're like peas in a pod. Those two. And to think that she's old enough to be your grandmother almost, but they're like equals.
Yeah, sometimes age doesn't matter.
Yeah, and the thing that's nice, like Patty always, when she says something, I just know it's going to happen, and I've tried to be that way with her. It's like just things like you say, okay, I'm going to be home at 6 o'clock, and then so that other person then can go about their day. Maybe if they're cooking dinner or they're doing something, they know when I'm coming in. It helps them to do what they're going to doing in their day, and then so if a person's late, then it just messes everybody up. So I know in relationships, I've had to learn, if I'm going to be late, then I got to call that person and say, look, something held me up. I'm not going to be there till half an hour later or something. And some people don't bother to do that because they're not taking the other person's feelings or what the other person's doing. Like if you're in a relationship, you're a team, so each person needs to know what's going on with the other person so that they know how to go about their day. So yeah, so some people are notoriously, have you ever had friends that are notoriously late? I mean, like there's some friends we have, and we know when we say, okay, we're going to have a dinner party like at 4, well, we know they're not going to show up ever until maybe 4:30 or 4:45, and after a while you just plan your event on knowing when you say 4, well, we don't even need to be ready at that time because they're not even going to be here at that time,
Yeah, exactly. Now, I grew up loving my mother, that she was always about 2 hours late. Or she was, she always had, her life was so busy that things didn't roll in the timings of others. And I know that I've struggled with this. And like Veronica said, that she says, she always puts things on her calendar. Oh, I always put things on my calendar.
Hey, Veronica.
And so with that it, putting things on our calendars. But right now we got phones that we can put, our the timer on, that goes ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Oh, I just remembered I have to go. I apologize. And that's the thing is I really try to give people notice that, hey, I've got to do this from this time to this time. And, if I'm a little bit over, I apologize. I'm trying hard to communicate because of the fact that, even if I'm a little bit off, at least people know that I'm off. And that's the one thing that I have always worked with, is universal timing. But I've had to add on, when I talk to the universe of love, I want to be in divine timing with everybody and respect the human timing of the clock. So please help me be in the divine timing with the human clock to respect the people around me that are
Yeah.
two-leggers.
One thing I learned, 30 years ago now, when I went to anger management, and we learned all about uh, all the different ways that we abuse each other. And one thing that was surprising to me, they said, not only is it abusive to be late, because when you're late, you're not sticking up to your word, but when you're late, what you're actually telling that other person is that, my time is more valuable than your time, so I'll just come there whenever I want, and forget it about what your timing is. So the other person feels bad, because you said you'd be there a certain time, and you don't show up. So the other thing is, though, too, that it's also a way of abusing if you show up early. In other words, because when you say, oh, we're having a dinner party at 4, I know when we have parties, there's a few people that doesn't matter when they show up. They're kind of like family, but
Yeah.
everybody else, we're not ready for, we have everything managed so that everything's ready at 4, not at 3:30. If someone shows up at 3:30, like Patty won't even be dressed or something yet, and got to get her hair and makeup or something done, or so in a way that can cause stress on people too when you show up early. So if you have to choose, the best thing to do is always show up right on the time that you said. That way.
It's an interesting part, but going back to that integrity with our words, being impeccable with our words, and how we influx so much into our relationships with each other. Tones in our voices, managing our managing how, like assumptions in our mind can be very much just as impactful as the words we say.
Yeah.
Like for me, sometimes if my husband leaves in the morning and he's just a little growly, well, at dinner time when he comes home, old habit, I would have been in my passive aggressive way when he was drinking, would have been, well, he's going to be grumpy when he gets home. Well, that's an assumption that I shouldn't have, because there's a lot of things that happen in between now and then.
Yeah.
And I should not assume if he's grumpy that he's going to stay that way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that a lot of us, imply, that we imply what we think somebody should be when they're not even in that moment. They're not even in that, I wouldn't want somebody to label me coming in the door. Sometimes it's nice. Oh, Natasha's always a gift to be with. Those kinds of things are a little bit easier to work with than, oh, she's always grumpy. But then that's something that I have to work on. If that's my label, I'm always grumpy.
Yeah. Well, when one thing we learned in hypnotherapy college was about how people in their lives, how children start forming to be either extroverts or introverts. And a lot of it has to do with the communication that they get from the people that are around them that are taking care of them. For instance, we found out in studies that extroverts tend to be more, when you say something, it's they take things literal, whereas introverts a lot of times have learned to take things inferentially. Example would be, you're a child and your mom and dad get together and they go, hey, guess what? We're going to Disneyland on Saturday. And you get all excited. We're going to leave about 10 and we're going to have the whole day there, So the little boy wakes up early, probably, he gets all dressed and everything. He's ready to go, runs into his mom and dad's room. And they're still sleeping, or something. And he's like wondering what's, there's somebody's at my my window here.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, take this. You're very welcome. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was
So we want to
a
make a
homeless.
disclosure here. Well, just a second. We're going to make a disclosure. So I'm in California at my girlfriend's house, and Regan is wonderfully in his van on the side of the road, on doing our show like he always does so wonderfully. So if our I'm going to call it
Well,
Wi-Fi or
yeah,
our connection or label. We don't have perfect audio today, and that's okay because it's called life, and we do life. That's one thing that Regan and I try to do is that it's like we're not. Well, it's actually we don't try to do. We do it anyways. Is whatever
yeah,
life is, it is gonna be what it's gonna be, and we try to be there better in the moment where we're at.
yeah. I know it. Well, this it was a homeless guy, and it's really hot here right now. And he asked if I had any water, and I just happened to have like a half bottle of water here, so I gave him a half bottle of water. So that made him happy.
Oh,
Isn't
good.
that weird how the things we do in the day, like, okay, if you looked in the bigger picture of thing, the coincidences, how I just happened to be here when someone's thirsty and I had some water to give them. Simple as that.
Mhm.
You know, it's like how we're able to be of service, to
Mhm.
other people. Interesting. But I wanted to get back to what I was saying. Okay, the little boy runs into the parents' room and they're still sleeping. And then he wakes them up. We're going to Disneyland. And the parents, sleepily say, "Oh, you know what? We're really tired right now. I think we'll do it. We'll do it maybe next week or another week." Okay, well, if the parents are doing that constantly, what a child learns is that when somebody tells them something, it may or may not happen.
Mhm.
So that they grow up. So when people tell them something, their mind is always going, well, they just told me that they're going to be here around this time or whatever. Maybe they'll show up, maybe they won't. But if you have the kind of parents that said, we're going to Disneyland, we're going to be up at 10, we're going to have a good time, you get all ready, you run into the room, they're all ready to go, you get in the car at 10 and go. When you have that experience as a child, then you grow up taking things literally, in other words, what people say they're going to do, you know. But the weird awakening of that is when you get to be adult and you realize there's a lot of people that are saying things and it doesn't happen, and you get really disappointed because you thought that when people say something they're going to do it.
Mhm.
So
And actually, you're in a way you're naming a piece of my husband and I's relationship because it's like I go with the flow. If things happen, they happen, and if they don't, they don't.
yeah,
I
me
get
too.
excited when I follow through when it follows through and I enjoy it, but I don't have expectations about what's going to happen. Where my husband lived in a military family, so things were pretty, followed through,
Yeah,
that kind of
everything's
thing.
by the clock.
By the
Oh, two
clock,
hundred, we're doing this.
exactly. Exactly. So with that if I don't follow through with something because something greater happened in the universe, because I do listen to my intuition and I do things, he gets quite upset sometimes, and I'm like, going, honey, and this is the part of me being differently impeccable with my words, is that I learned in this last month that when I get stressed, I don't come out and communicate very well.
Yeah,
And so with that I go inward. I'm a double Cancerian. I go under my shell. Yet at the same time, though, my intuition when I'm in stressful moments gets louder. So I start doing things, but I don't communicate them very well. And I know a lot of people, they don't necessarily label it intuition, but they get stressed out, they don't communicate, and they just start doing things right in front of them. They go into reaction instead of interaction. And so with that then they don't become communicative. And then the people around them, they kind of go, I thought that you were going to put the bookshelf over here, not over here. Well, instead of communicating, say, hey, something doesn't feel right about putting it over here. I think I'm going to put it over here. Just those little communications when we're stressed out help all of us do a little bit differently. Because I know I was driving down the road one time in Florida when we were there, and driving down the road, and I heard, "Don't take that exit," because there's two exits to get to a certain place. You can go this way to get there, or you can go this way to get there. And I heard, "Go to the next exit." Did I mention that? No. And my husband, who gets stressed out driving, and doesn't know his way around very well, where I do. I get pictures in my mind and I know where I'm going. He goes, "That was our exit." And I go, "No, I was going to go down the next one." But I didn't pre-tell him. So he already got upset. So there's that point where many of us forget to communicate the little things because so many of us are made up of so many different, you take Santa's, Christmas bag, right? And we can
Yeah.
put somebody, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's put in there that make us up who we are. And a lot of times those things, the lack of communication is the thing that can trigger somebody to dislike us more and more.
Yeah. Well,
Now
it's
it doesn't
funny
mean that
how,
we have
yeah.
to label all the time, but
It,
it's that little communication sometimes. Go ahead, Regan. Oh, did you freeze? I told you we were having some technical scenarios. So I think Regan froze here. So with this, that going forward is what we can do to manage what's around us. If we can go into observer, and I know, and I'm an observer that is, you know, I don't know why I have the vision, that I do about certain things about communicating. But the thing is, so when we're going forward and managing our life, the more we can be impeccable with our words, we can be kinder with our words. We can be, Regan's still frozen here. There, he popped out and he'll pop back in. That, it's about working with each other. Now that's the one thing that I have found is that if I perceive somebody that they should be a certain way, there's keywords in there. If I perceive somebody that they should be the way that they should be, well, isn't that interesting? Because I know that down here, and I've got a lot of single, especially women friends who are struggling finding mates because of the fact that we forget that some men are, they're, how do I say this with love? They're simpler minded than us women are. And so they don't think the same way we do. And when we're going forward and trying to work on things, first, like I've been saying to some people, give opportunity a chance because we don't know where we're going to be and what's going to be. And so many of us get spoken to when somebody is in the first throes of what a relationship might be, and they don't know who to be. And I can tell you that this can lay over like meeting somebody at the grocery store who's our checkout person, right? Or it could be like Regan meeting that homeless man, right? So when we're going forward, when we really are thinking, should somebody be a certain way, is that being impeccable? Or is that putting people onto a story that they are not, right? So thinking about being impeccable with our words, we got a couple people watching here, so I would love some input. That how are ways that you find that you either are impeccable with your words or that you are struggling with it because of the fact that we're all human, we all struggle with it, right? That going into these moments of I'm really in observing on how many people, like if somebody was raised by a mother who was very sharp and judgmental, right? If they were sharp and judgmental, how do you think we might be? Food for thought, right? How do we think we might be if we were raised by kinder, gentler parents? How would we might be? Right? So going forward, we are the makeup of who we are. Like Regan said, that, the way that we're raised does have an impact on how we are. And, many of us throw things out. Many of us in our anger throw out these statements that are not for kindness and growth. And that's one thing that I have noticed when I've had to be observant about being impeccable with my words, is I had to check in. What was my intention in this? What was my intention? Even if it's talking with a girlfriend for a few minutes, even if it's talking to someone I'm checking out, or at a grocery store and we're checking out, how can we be more in, sorry, my legs are sticking to the chair I'm in, be in the moment of surrendering to who somebody is, to do better boundaries and communication towards someone, right? So with that, going forward, when we are in the middle of an argument, let's say, how is it that you are speaking to yourself, and how are you speaking to the people around you? Now, that's the thing is that all of us have agendas. All of us have agendas. What is my agenda in this moment? And I'm going to tell you, having an agenda in a conversation with someone doesn't always work. You can have intentions. You can have intentions, but agendas. Because sometimes someone will speak something in an agenda, right, that is triggers somebody else. So having an intention in a conversation can be more blessed. Are you back, Regan?
Yeah, that was weird. My phone just went dead, and it says your iPhone is overheated. You need to cool it down before you use it again. So I had to turn on the air conditioner here in the van and put it up to the air conditioner for a minute and cool down. But I think that's how hot it is here. I had it on there was a little suction cup thing onto the front window, and I think the sun coming in from outside through the glass was heating it up.
Oh, yes.
So anyway,
That
sorry to
No,
come in and
you're
out there.
good. You're good.
That's
Like
just
we said, that this is about
technology.
going with the flow. I have no judgments about this.
Yeah,
It's like if and that's the thing that I was just talking about. Isn't this interesting? I love synchronicities in life. Is that, I could have an agenda with the show. I can have an agenda that we need to have this protocol, we need to have these logistics with our audio, we need to have this with our cameras, and we can't have any other influxes, right? But I don't do that. I have intentions with the show.
yeah,
Having good conversations, having something that is leaving people better than I find them, showing that there's love out in the world, and helpfully helping someone get from here to here, getting from here to here
yeah.
so that they can do better in their life. And that's intention. Agenda. So I'm so grateful that you have the same kind of intentions in your life, Regan.
I'm lucky to have Patty in my life too, because so many times we have to go to Plan B, and that doesn't work. We go to Plan C, and we both just go, "Whoop, let's just go to Plan B now. Let's go to C," instead of
Hmm.
being, you're disappointed that what you wanted to happen didn't happen. You go, "Ah, darn!" But some people that ruins their whole day. They can't move to a Plan B, and then they're just puts them in such a bad mood that but uh, luckily and that's what's good about relationships, if you have partners that can kind of, because in life I think it's healthier to have people that can go with the flow,
Hmm.
more than people that are too rigid,
Hmm.
in their ways, because nothing, I mean, it's rare sometimes when everything happens exactly as you wanted it to go, you know
Exactly, exactly. And that's the thing about when we get into the mix of people, because I know that, we all have people who are married to the opposite.
yeah,
You're lucky that you have Patty the way that you do.
yeah, I
I
know,
know
I'm
for
lucky.
me, I don't have a Patty. I have a very loving husband. He's very much so loving, but the thing is though that he does have agendas, he does have expectations,
Yeah,
he does have those things. And I know that, there's a couple people watching today that do have those kinds of mates too, and they get judged if it doesn't happen, because how can we one set of the relationship be impeccable with our words,
Yeah.
but the other half isn't.
Right. That's difficult too. You know, at least you can feel good about yourself that you know that you did what you say you're going to do. You know, and that gives you some sort of self love or something. You know, that way. Um, Thinking about when you talked about this, say we're going to talk about the subject today. I began to think of the issues that happened in my life where things became unpleasant or fell apart or became a big issue because I did not do what I said I was going to do. You
Mm-hmm.
know, especially when I was younger. And the thing, sometimes when you don't do what you say you're going to do and you do a semblance of that, even a semblance of that isn't good enough. I mean, you know, you got to do what you say you're going to do. Just think about people that are late for work. I mean, they've made a contract with that person who hired them to be there at a particular time every day. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're not, when you show up late or, oh, you know, I'm just going to, they don't mind if I get there 10, 15 minutes late. Well, if you have that agreement with your boss that, yeah, you're here, you're supposed to be here at 9 a.m. sharp or, you know, at least by 9:15 and you get there at 9:14, no problem still, you know, because you've made that agreement with the boss. But there are a lot of jobs that if you're not there right on the time, you throw everything else off. You know, I was when I've been on this 3-day journey here to see my grandkids and everything, which was wonderful this weekend. Um, I stopped. I couldn't get into a fast food place. The dining room was supposed to be open, but they had the door locked, and my van is 9 foot tall, so I can't get through the drive-through. So when I knocked on the door, the lady came over and said, "No, only drive-through only." And I said, "Your dining room's closed." And she goes, "Yeah, a few people didn't show up, and we had to close the doors because we can't service both the inside and the outside." So that whole team was in there working their butts off, trying to make up for two people that just decided not to come into work. You know, so you know, and a lot of young people, I say young, there's older people too, but it seems to be one thing that youth needs to learn. And that's about how important it is for things to go well, that everybody has a place, you know, like it's a tribe. Let's say if you were in a tribe and there's a few young men that are in charge of hunting to go out and get the deer for the village for the week. And they
Mm-hmm.
go out and play and do something else, and they come back, and everybody's mad at them. And they go, "What's wrong?" And they go, "We don't have anything to eat, you know, because you were supposed to go out and hunt." And they go, "Oh, okay, you know, it's that kind of thing. You know, you gotta really do what you say you're going to do." And the older I get, the better I'm getting at it, and the more I think maybe
I
that's when
think
my
that's
life,
part of the. I think that's part of the life journey. Is as we get older, we
yeah,
get more aware of our impacts around us.
yeah. So you know when you're gonna do something, and you say you're going to do it now, because I'm becoming a little forgetful at my age. If I say, like, if Patty asked me to do something, it works best if I just, even though she says, "Well, tomorrow will you do this certain thing?" Well, I either got to go put it on a list or set my alarm, you know, and put something that's going to happen, or I just got to get up and do it right then, even though it was something I could do tomorrow, because then I go, "Phew, I got that done and it's off my plate, and I don't have to worry about remembering." You know,
Uh-huh. I
it's
hear ya. Well, we got so much stuff going on nowadays that I don't care if you're 3 years old or 33 or 99 or whatever you are, that there's so much going on right now that it's hard to really think about things. And I know for me, I even wrote down what I was going to talk about on Wednesday because I didn't want to forget it on, when I posted, because of the fact
yeah,
that life is happening around us. And that's the thing that I want people to know is that when we're impeccable with our words, we got to come home. We got to come back to us. We got to come back to our own self. Because if we don't start being impeccable with our words, because of fact, what we are thinking, what we are saying, and what we focus on is what we are going to be receiving in our life.
yeah,
It's
hmm
huge right now.
hmm
So with that, thinking about, oh, like my girlfriend, we went to a dance studio because it was something that that, she doesn't, she wants a girlfriend to go do things with. And so we went to a dance studio, and I asked a gentleman, what does he do? He says, I'm unemployed. Just simple. I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
Well, there's another way of saying that. I'm on a path of finding my next job.
Yeah. That's so good that you said that, because
That's impeccable with our words.
yeah, that's such a something I learned in the last few weeks, and I wrote it down, and I've helped a few people because I passed it on to them. And that's in the power of words. Like you say, when you say, I can't find a job, you know, that's that's adding reinforcement to the fact of making it more difficult for you to find a job. But if you just put one word at the end of that sentence, it changes the whole vibe to it. You say, I can't find a job yet, and you put that yet in there, which means that you're going forward and you're looking for a job and you just haven't found it, but you're going to, yet, instead of saying, I can't find a job. You just feel that difference, can't you?
Yeah. There's
You know,
that the sentence continues, dot, 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 dot.
yeah,
It's a continuation. But that's that whole difference in being impeccable with our words about how we want to journey our life. For me, it's like, okay, I want to budget better. That's something that money has been one of my I don't want to call it that I've been broke my life, but it's been a process of learning, how to manage it a little differently. And I am one that loves to be in service. And so, like, for me, being impeccable with my words in order to do this trip, I was like, okay, guy, universe, I want to go on this trip. I know I'm called to go on this trip. And how can I do it to be in the budget that I wanted to be in? Well, I was going to do it one way, and the ticket kept going up and up and up. And then I looked on a credit card that I have, that it was like I had enough points to do all my trip, and all I had to do was pay the tax on it. So 3 tickets cost me $15.
wow, great.
So being impeccable with my words, instead of saying, oh, I can't afford to go, I don't want to go, I'm not, I really want to go, but I don't have the money to go. I asked the universe, okay, guys, if I'm meant to go, you need to make it for being the budget that I can afford.
Yeah.
And what happened? I'm in California.
Yeah. That's gonna be great. That's coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be with Regan here in another, next Tuesday.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. We're really looking forward to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And just to remind people, what we're talking about today is part from the book, The Four Agreements, which is sold several million copies.
Mm-hmm.
People that read it, it's a small book. It's for people that don't like to read. It's probably, I don't know, it's real thin and everything, but it's so powerful. And it's about 4 agreements that if you make these agreements with yourself and you hold them, you have a most beautiful life. Your relationships work well. You feel good about yourself. And they're simple ones, and one of the 4 is be impeccable in your word. You know,
Yep.
there was another, I'm trying to think, it was called Morgan's Law, or the man who wrote a book. And the book was written on the premise with one sentence. It says, do all you agree to do and never encroach on another person's space or property. And in other words, if you follow just that, line there, do all you agree to do, never encroach on another person's physical or emotional space. Um, you know, that's a pretty good way to live, you know. So when you're getting ready to do something, you think, am I pushing in the boundaries of somebody else? Am I doing something negative there, or is this what I'm doing in the plus side? Is this okay? With everything you do, and that's just like this 4 agreements. So it's Miguel Luis. Wait a minute, I always forget his name.
Miguel. Yeah,
Miguel Luis,
I have it. I don't want to dishonor him. This makes me sad. My dyslexia and I, that it is part of that process of Let me see here. I looked up. There
Well,
we
if
go.
you for people that want the book, it's sold millions. So if you even go onto Amazon used books or go used books, you'll find it, and it'll probably be like
Yeah,
used
Don
5 or 6 times.
Miguel Ruiz, yes. And I know for me, I think I'm gonna do it again, but do it audio, just to hear it this time, so that I can hear it a little differently than when I'm reading it. So I'm not
Yeah,
having my assumptions when I'm reading it. I'm having, when sometimes when you hear something different, because that's the thing that being impeccable with our words, that a lot of times we have an agenda, that I want to have a conversation with you and I want to tell you this. And then people go, wait a minute. I just got home. My brain isn't even close to being in this conversation. And I don't know where you're coming from. Right? So, being impeccable with our words, a lot of times I ask permission first. Hey, I there's something bugging me and I don't know. I need to have, I would really love to have a conversation with you. Do you mind telling me when it would be a good time to do that? And I need to do it sooner than later.
yeah,
You know, and then that way things become a little bit more, less agendaed and more intentioned,
yeah.
because somebody's ready for it.
Well, and being impeccable with your word also means to yourself. In other words, if you set your mind, you say, okay, on Monday, I know for my better good, I'm going to go do this. You put it on your calendar and you do it. You're going to feel pretty good. But how bad do we feel about ourselves sometimes when we tell ourselves we're going to do something and then oh, I'm too tired or blah, blah, blah. And then we go around the whole day feeling awful because we knew what was best for ourselves and we told ourselves we were going to do something and we don't do it,
Hmm.
and then you start feeling bad about yourself and so be careful what you say to yourself you're going to do, you know, uh,
Exactly, exactly. I know that my girlfriend, when I come down here, we both learn from each other so much. It's like, and I love that she sets, like when she has to go out and do some weeding, she sets the timer for 20 minutes. And I'm thinking, you can't do weeding in 20 minutes. I mean, especially with what we're doing a lot of planting and freshening up
yeah,
and and it was like, but like she said, it gets me outside. It gets
yeah,
me outside. And that 20 minutes, my mind can handle saying 20 minutes because I don't really want to do it. But yet it's that getting it moving forward. And that's one thing that if we can do for ourselves is compromise. So many people don't compromise with themselves.
yeah, yeah. That's right. You can't be too tough on yourself either. Sometimes when things aren't going your way, and you have to be willing to change your plan, even if it's not with someone else, but it's something you need to do, and you need to go to breathe for a minute and go, okay, what can plan B here at this point? What
Hmm.
can it do so that I can? And people will be surprised how they can accomplish things in a completely different way than they ever thought they have a way in their mind they're going to go from A to B, and this is how they're going to go, and all of a sudden there's a roadblock of some sort, and then they're forced to figure out, and all of a sudden, because they're forced to do that, they'll find a way to get to that point in a whole different way that they never thought of before. So a lot of things can happen, and you can still get things done even if they're not in the way that you anticipated, to start.
Exactly. And the thing is, though, during that journey, we got to be careful what we tell ourselves. I'm so stupid for going this way. Why did I decide to go this way? And that's not being very impeccable with our words. Like for me, if I do that, I go, "Oh, I guess the universe wants me to go a different way."
Right.
So
Yeah.
with me, I don't necessarily fight the pattern. Like my girlfriend was taking down a tree in the front, and it just happened to be where it was going to be trimmed, and then the communication got off and it got trimmed a little bit more, and pretty soon it was trimmed down. The thing is, though, it was a tree that was prickly and did a lot of um, dropped a lot of things, so it was a messy tree for the front yard. And it was hard for her to go through that transition, and so she's feeling guilty and all these different things, and like I told her, I said, it is what it is. What can
Yeah.
we do with what is? Because I don't like witnessing people who, we punish and we hurt ourselves. And I've learned a long time ago to, what is here? What do I have to deal with here? What do I have to do with here? And one thing that I'm observing with myself is that I do, okay, what is here? And what can I do with what's here? And do you notice my body language? I'm not necessarily, I'm here. What am I going to do with here? It's no, I'm here. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
Well, let's go get some information. Instead of talking bad about ourselves, about making decisions and struggling that, okay, I had to go a different way in my car. Oh,
Yeah.
well, and like I've said before, maybe I needed to bless that energy that needed was
Yes.
on that road. Or, oh, there was a deer I wouldn't have seen earlier, and that deer represents being kinder to myself.
One
You-
thing I learned, my friend Tony, taught me uh, back in my 40s and really instilled in me that he just said there's always more than one way to do something. Sometimes we grow up and we learn, we think, we have, well, I mean, simplification of that is you grow up and you eat your meals all the time with a fork, and a little kid or something doesn't have a fork, thinks can't eat his meal, but there's a spoon sitting right there, but they don't think I can eat that food with a spoon because I've always used a fork. And that's how
Mhm.
blind we are sometimes. And when you have that mentality that there's always another way to get to the destination you want to do, always another way to fix something. There's always another tool besides the tool you thought you were going to use that you could maybe use in an emergency or something. And but just having that mentality has helped me so many times. Uh, like when I broke down, had a flat a few years ago, in the middle of the night, uh, out in the desert somewhere, and no AAA, no. But I had a jack in the back, so I got the jack under the van, and I got the jack all the way to the top, but it still needed to go about an inch higher. I couldn't get that tire, but I'm thinking, oh my God, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, okay, there's always another way. So then my mind quickly went to, I walked up along the road until I found some stones that were, like a big stone that was flat enough and whatever.
Mhm.
And then I found like a 2x4 that someone had fallen off a truck or something up a ways. So I came back and no problem. But I know at one point in my life I would have thought, oh man, I'm just stuck out here till morning or something when I can flag
And I'm
somebody
so
down.
stupid for having this happen, and la da 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 da. And it's all these negative things that
Yeah,
doesn't do us any good with and that's the web that I think that being impeccable with our words, or being kinder with our words, or being influential in our words, is that we don't necessarily we don't realize how much we weave. Our language weaves our tapestry of our life. And what do we want? Do we want discord and hurt and hate in what we're thinking, concepting, what we're talking about? Because what we talk about is what we're focusing on.
yeah. Well, look,
And how we talk about others, I think that's very much one thing that we got to be we're coming down on our time here, and I would love to talk a little bit about how we talk about others.
how we what?
How we talk about others,
Oh yeah,
because the fact that sometimes um like I was with some friends, and somebody hurt their back, and they were going to text, oh, so and so can't do something because they have a backache. And I'm like going, wait a minute, did she say that she has a backache, or are we saying that she has a backache? So being impeccable with our words, we got to be careful. We can say, hey, so and so might not be able to dance tonight, she'll let you know why, you know because it's up to them. And so many of us, like for me, I had a friend who passed away yesterday morning, or no, actually this morning.
Wow.
And I knew she was going to pass. She had cancer, but while she was having cancer, I had to be careful how I spoke about her, because of the fact that I did not want to label that she couldn't have a miracle.
Yeah.
And if I always said, that, like I really tried to say something that, I have a couple friends that, that sadly that they have an opportunity to leave this earth, and I'm praying that if they do, they can go with gentle grace and ease
Yeah.
and less pain, so I'm saying if that's their path. So being impeccable with our words, being careful about how we speak about people who are ill. And if somebody says, well, like somebody asks, how's my kid in New Mexico? And I say, I don't know. I mean, I know that every time I talk to her, she's, happy, and or she's sometimes, she's tired, because that's what she says. But I know that she can have energy when she gets some sleep.
Yeah.
So it's that, how do we talk about others around us? Because we, not being impeccable with our words about holding other people, we can deem them sicker and sicker because of how we keep them in that
I
sickness.
know. Yeah.
Isn't
We'll
that
have to do a
tricky?
show sometime on the importance of words and how we say words and how, because of energies and things. And just like you're saying, how we can either bring something down or pull something up just by the way we phrase words in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting. Um, let me, since I have to leave right at 5,
Okay.
let me tell people how they can get a hold of me. I work with the Newton Institute, one of 250 therapists trained around the world. We're in 46 countries, and for 40 years we've had this process where we help our clients. I help my clients to get into a deep trance state, which about 90% of people can reach. It's not that hard. And in that state, we've discovered that you can expand your awareness to
Mm-hmm.
the afterlife. And it's a most amazing, life-changing, life-altering experience you can have. You become, in a sense, like Natasha, like a medium, where you get some information from the other side. And we've had about 70,000 people do it so far. And the more therapists we train now, that number is increasing rapidly because the world has changed so much, and
Oh
so many
God,
people are
yes.
open to that right now. So I do it either on Zoom, online, or in person. Uh, I pretty much see people all over California, northern Southern California. But other than that, I do it on Zoom. So if you're in India watching this, all I do is set my clock, get up early in the middle of the night when it's day for you, and do a therapy session for you there. I'm also a regular clinical hypnotherapist, and I deal with things like stress, PTSD, fears and phobias, changing bad habits, stop smoking, lose weight, even the simple things. We learn what I've learned to do is how to help you retrain your subconscious into getting more out of who you are. So you can get a hold of me at visittheafterlife.com. There's some cool videos on there, a lot more explanation of things, and you can get a free book right now called "Reincarnation is Real," which is an ebook that I send free to you. It's about all the current research around the world, and there's lots of it, lots of more proof of reincarnation. It's pretty much proved now, because there's so much research.
Mm-hmm. I
And
know my
Natasha, I know
girlfriend.
your
Go ahead.
website is great. I like your website. It's great.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
and it's angelicclarifications.com, right?
It is angelicclarifications.com, and you can reach me through there if you are looking to have a session with working with past lives. Matter of fact, my girlfriend's dog has a big fear of anybody stepping on a ladder, and so I even saw into the dog's past life. It's amazing how things are woven through. So with that I'm Natasha Venter, and I am a psychic medium who would love to help you through life, and you can reach me at angelicclarifications.com.
Yeah, and the book again is the Four Agreements. If you just type in the Four Agreements, they say you can get it. So many millions of
Don
this have been sold, uh, and I'm still getting him. His name, Michael something Ruiz.
Don Miguel Ruiz.
There we go. But
Yeah.
if you just do the Four Agreements, and I'll tell you, if you get this book, you will pass it on to somebody else, because it's you begin to make these agreements with yourself. They're not that. To implement the agreements might be a little difficult because you have to change your behavior a little bit, but you can grow so much if you just follow these 4 simple things and think about it every day. Are you keeping these agreements with yourself? And if you do, I'll tell you, people that have followed them have said that it's life changing. You know.
It is very life changing, and it's something that I think that for me that I keep revisiting this kind of book or story to help myself keep on the same or path,
Yeah.
because I want to be very impeccable with my words, because my words do carry a lot of responsibility. So
Be
blessings every
impeccable in your word, people.
Yes, exactly. My love to everyone and blessings, and may you have love in the journey of your life.
Yeah, we'll see you
S-
next week at 4.
At 4 o'clock, and Wednesday at 4 o'clock, same station, same place. Bye
Yeah.
now.